The rain hit like a freight train, turning our campfire into a hissing puddle of regret before I could even scream Alex's name. His truck had skidded off the muddy trail 2 miles back, headlights swallowed by the storm, and now here we were, stranded in the Wyoming backcountry, my best friend bleeding from a gash on his forehead, whispering, "We should have stayed home, Jake. This was all my stupid idea." But as lightning cracked the sky open, illuminating the fear in his eyes, I realized this trip wasn't about the wilderness anymore. It was about the secret I'd buried deeper than these roots under our feet. I met Alex in the sticky heat of a Mississippi summer, back when we were both scrawny freshmen at Ole Miss, fumbling through orientation like lost puppies. He was the guy with the crooked grin and the beat-up Ford pickup, always blasting Springsteen from the tape deck while we hauled kegs for frat parties neither of us really fit into. I was the quiet one from the Chicago suburbs, the kid who'd escaped a house full of silence after my folks split, trading blizzards for bayous. We clicked over bad coffee in the student union, bonding over our shared hatred of calc class and our unspoken dreams of getting out, really out, into the wide-open American sprawl. That first year, Alex dragged me on a road trip to the Gulf Coast, just the two of us in that rattling truck, windows down, salt air whipping our faces. We fished off piers until dawn, told ghost stories about Confederate soldiers, and crashed in cheap motels where the AC hummed like a lullaby. It was innocent then, or at least that's what I told myself. The way his shoulder brushed mine as we laughed, the easy rhythm of our silences. But by junior year, when he started dating Sarah from the sorority row, something shifted. I'd watch him across the quad, her arm looped through his, and feel this hollow ache, like I'd swallowed a stone. I buried it, of course. Pushed it down with extra shifts at the campus bookstore, late-night runs along the river, anything to keep the questions at bay. Graduation came and went in a blur of cheap champagne and half-hearted job hunts. Alex landed a gig as a park ranger out in Yellowstone. Fitting, the guy who'd always talked about chasing horizons instead of cubicles. Me? I bounced around Chicago ad agencies, peddling slogans for beer nobody needed, until the burnout hit like a hangover that wouldn't quit. When he called last spring, voice crackling over the line from some Wyoming outpost, saying, "Jake, get your ass out here. I've got 2 weeks of leave and a spot by the lake that's begging for trouble." I didn't hesitate, packed a duffel, booked the red-eye, and flew into Jackson Hole with nothing but a 6-pack of IPAs and the kind of reckless hope you only feel when you're 25 and untethered. The drive up to the trailhead was pure Americana. Endless prairies giving way to jagged Tetons, elk grazing like they owned the place. Alex picked me up in a Ranger-issue Jeep, his uniform rumpled, that same grin splitting his face under a week's worth of stubble. "You look like shit, buddy," he said, clapping my shoulder hard enough to rattle my teeth. "City life's draining the rebel out of you." We loaded up the gear, tents, coolers, a beat-up guitar he'd promised to teach me chords on, and hit the dirt road just as the sun dipped low, painting the peaks in fire. That first night, we set up camp by a roaring creek, the kind of spot where the stars feel close enough to touch. Alex cracked open the IPAs and we talked like no time had passed. About the girls we dated, mine a string of forgettable baristas, his a parade of tourists who didn't get the wilderness vibe, the jobs we hated, the parents we called less and less. "Remember that time in Biloxi, when we swore off suits forever?" he said, poking the fire with a stick. I nodded, the memory warm in my chest, but my eyes kept drifting to the way the flames danced on his jawline, turning his laugh into something dangerous. By day 2, we'd hiked deeper into the backcountry, boots crunching over pine needles, the air crisp with that high-altitude bite. We fished for cutthroat trout in glassy pools, Alex showing off his casts like a pro, me flailing until he looped an arm around my waist to adjust my grip. "Loosen up, Jake," he murmured, breath hot against my ear. It's all about the flow. My heart hammered harder than the river rapids, but I played it cool, reeling in a keeper and slapping his back like it was nothing. That's when the first crack appeared, not in the earth, but in us. Over lunch by a meadow dotted with wild iris, he got quiet, staring at his sandwich like it held state secrets. "Sarah's back in Mississippi," he said finally, voice flat. We broke it off for good last month. Said I was too distant. I wanted to high-five the universe, but instead I muttered something lame about her loss, probing gently until he spilled. The fights over his long shifts, her tears about needing more. The way he'd wake up in their apartment feeling like a stranger in his own skin. I love this life, Jake. The quiet, the space. But sometimes it feels like I'm running from something. His eyes met mine then, raw and searching, and for a split second, I thought he might say it. The thing I'd whispered to myself in dark Chicago nights. But he looked away, chucked a pebble into the grass, and the moment shattered. We pushed on, climbing switchbacks that left us gasping, the forest thickening around us like a jealous lover. By evening, we crested a ridge overlooking Shoshone Lake, Wyoming's hidden gem, a mile-high basin of turquoise fed by geothermal springs, steam rising like ghosts from the shallows. "This is it," Alex announced, dropping his pack with a thud. "Our spot. No rangers, no trails, just us and whatever trouble we stir up." We pitched the tents on a gravel bar, the water lapping soft against the shore, and as dusk fell, he pulled out that guitar. His fingers danced over the strings, coaxing out Dylan tunes and half-remembered folk ballads, his voice gravelly and true. I sat cross-legged in the dirt, nursing a beer, letting the melody wrap around me like smoke. When he handed me the instrument, our hands brushed, and I swear the world tilted. That night, dreams tangled with reality. The lake whispering secrets, Alex's silhouette against the moonlit water, calling my name like a prayer. I woke sweating, heart pounding, and stumbled out to find him already up, skipping rocks across the surface. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, tossing me a spare stone. It skipped once and sank, pathetic. He laughed, that full-bodied sound that always unraveled me, and for a heartbeat, everything felt right, infinite, possible. But infinity's a lie we tell ourselves in the wild. The storm rolled in on day 4, unannounced and biblical, gray clouds swallowing the Tetons like a bad omen. We'd planned a loop trail back to the Jeep, but the sky cracked open midway, turning the path into a slick ribbon of mud. "We can make it!" Alex yelled over the thunder, grabbing my arm as we scrambled for cover under a stand of firs. Lightning forked ahead, close enough to smell the ozone, and then, screech of tires in my mind's eye, though it was the world tilting as his foot caught a root. We slid together, a tangle of limbs and curses, down an embankment that dumped us into a thicket of brambles. My elbow throbbed, but it was nothing compared to the gash on his temple, blood mixing with rain in rivulets down his cheek. "Shit, Alex." I yanked off my shirt, pressing it to the wound, my hands shaking as the downpour hammered us. He winced but grinned through it, that unbreakable spirit flickering. "Told you. Trouble." The Jeep was a ghost in the distance, washed out by sheets of rain, and our phones? Dead zones up here, no signal to summon help. We hunkered down in a shallow cave, a natural overhang carved by centuries of weather, sharing body heat like survivors in some gritty western. The storm raged for hours, wind howling through the pass like a banshee, and in the dim light filtering through the deluge, Alex's face looked haunted. "This is on me," he muttered, head lolled against my shoulder. "Dragging you out here for my bullshit nostalgia trip." I shushed him, tracing the line of his jaw with my thumb without thinking. Tender, instinctive. "Hey, we're rebels, remember? This is what we signed up for." As the rain eased to a drizzle, he shifted, eyes locking on mine with an intensity that stole my breath. "Jake, there's something I need to say, before this all goes to hell." My pulse thundered, the cave shrinking around us, but a fresh gust rattled the branches outside, and he clamped his mouth shut. "Later, when we're dry." I nodded, swallowing the what-ifs, and we waited out the night, his head on my chest, the rhythm of his breathing syncing with the fading storm. Dawn broke gray and grudging, the world a sopping mess of uprooted ferns and swollen streams. We foraged what we could, dried jerky from my pack, a handful of serviceberries that tasted like regret, and plotted our escape. The trail back was a river now, forcing us to ford waist-deep currents that tugged like greedy hands. Alex went first, rope tied between us, his ranger instincts kicking in as he scouted handholds on slick boulders. "1 foot at a time, brother," he called, voice steady despite the pallor under his tan. I followed, water icy against my thighs, every step a gamble against the pull. Midway across, disaster struck. A log jam upstream gave way, unleashing a wall of debris, branches, mud, the wrath of the mountains. "Jake!" Alex's shout was lost in the roar as the surge hit, yanking the rope taut. I dug my heels into the gravel bed, muscles screaming, but the current won. He vanished under the foam, my lifeline going slack, and panic clawed up my throat like bile. "Alex! Hold on!" I thrashed forward, blind in the churn, fingers scraping rock until they closed on fabric. His jacket, sodden and tearing. We washed up on the far bank like driftwood, coughing mud, bruises blooming across his ribs where a branch had clipped him. I dragged him to shallower water, pounding his back until he retched and gasped. "I'm okay." Damn, that was close. But his eyes were glassy, breath ragged, and when I checked, his ankle was swelling purple. A sprain at best, fracture at worst. "No jeep, no signal," I said, scanning the treeline. We hiked the ridge, high ground for a view. The climb was torture, him leaning on me like a crutch, every step eliciting a hiss through clenched teeth. We talked to distract. Stupid stuff like ranking Springsteen albums or debating if the Bears had a prayer this season. But underneath, the unspoken loomed, heavy as the pack on my back. By noon, we crested the ridge, the lake shimmering below like a taunt, our camp a speck of abandoned color. "Almost there," I lied, sweat stinging my eyes. That's when he stopped, gripping my arm hard enough to bruise. "Jake, wait!" His voice cracked, raw from the cold, and he sank onto a fallen log, pulling a crumpled envelope from his inner pocket. Miraculously dry, wrapped in plastic. "I was gonna give you this at the lake, under the stars like some corny movie. But, fuck it. Now or never." My stomach dropped, a mix of dread and longing twisting like the river we just escaped. He pressed it into my palm, fingers lingering. "Read it, please." I tore it open, rain-spattered hands trembling, the words blurring at first. His scrawl, familiar from 1,000 notes passed in lecture halls. "Jake, if you're reading this, it means I've finally manned up. 20 years of friendship, and I've spent most of them pretending. You're not just my best friend. You're the one who makes the quiet make sense, the wild feel safe. I love you, man. Not like brothers. Like everything. If this wrecks us, so be it. But I can't run anymore." The world narrowed to that scrap of paper, his confession hitting harder than the storm. I looked up, tears mixing with the mist on my face, and saw it all. The fear in his posture, the hope flickering like embers. "Alex, But words failed, choked by the years of denial, the betrayal I'd inflicted on myself by staying silent. Instead, I crushed the note in my fist, pulled him close, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling in the thin mountain air. "Me too. God, me too." What followed wasn't fireworks or violins. Just us, broken and whole, piecing together the fragments. We limped to the lake, the sun breaking through in slants of gold. And there, on the shore where steam curled from the springs, he kissed me. Soft at first, tentative like testing the current. Then deeper, a dam breaking, all the unspoken pouring out in salt and warmth. No grand gestures, just hands finding purchase on damp skin. Hearts sinking like they'd always known the rhythm. But the wild doesn't yield easy. That night, as we dried by a revived fire, his phone buzzed. Miracle signal from the ridge, and a text from his ex, Sarah, lit the screen. "Heard you're in Wyoming. Need to talk. Coming up tomorrow. It's about us." My gut twisted, the betrayal sharp as a fresh cut. He'd never mentioned reconciliation, but there it was, her words a ghost from the life he'd claimed to leave. "Alex," I whispered, holding out the phone. His face crumpled, the ranger's mask slipping. I told her it was over, but she won't let go. Thinks this trip's some phase. The fire crackled, shadows dancing like accusations. A phase? I echoed, voice hollow. After this? After us? He reached for me, but I pulled back, the note's ink still burning in my pocket. Jake, please. She's family, her dad got me this job. But it's you. It's always been. Thunder rumbled distant, a reminder of the storm we'd survived. But this one brewed inside, conflict tearing at the seams we just mended. We argued under the stars, voices rising like the wind, him defending ties that bound him. Me spilling the loneliness of loving in silence, the betrayal of almost losing him to the river and now to echoes of the past. You think I don't get it? He shouted, pacing the gravel. Growing up in that Bible Belt house? Dad's sermons on Sundays? Mom's whispers about fixing me? I buried this deeper than you ever did. Tears streaked his face, illuminated by the flames, and I saw the boy he'd been. Scared, defiant, reaching for horizons to escape the weight. I softened then, the humanism of it all crashing in. We're all just stories stitched from scars, loving despite the fray. I'm scared too, I admitted, standing to bridge the gap, of losing you to her, to anything. He stopped, breath hitching, and pulled me into an embrace that smelled of pine and promise. Then don't. Stay. Fight for this with me. Dawn brought Sarah's Jeep rumbling up the access road. Park service perks, I guessed, her blonde hair whipping as she stormed the camp, eyes red-rimmed and furious. Alex, what the hell? You ghost me for this. She gestured wildly at the tents, the lake, us, tangled in each other's arms by the fire's embers. The climax hit like lightning, her accusations flying. Phase? Confusion? Think of your family. Each word a barb. Alex stood tall, hand in mine, voice steady as the Tetons. Sarah, it's over. For real this time. I love Jake. And that's not changing. She deflated, the fight draining like the storm's receding waters. And in a moment of raw grace, she nodded, tears falling, but a small smile breaking through. You deserve that happiness, Alex. Even if it hurts like hell. No villain's exit, just a hug for old times. A quiet drive away, leaving the air clearer, the horizon vast. We spent the last days rebuilding, not just the camp, but us. Hikes turned intimate, conversations peeling back layers. His coming out whispers to the wind, my Chicago isolation, dreams of a cabin somewhere, maybe Montana, where love could root without apology. The lake became our confessional, gestures small but seismic, a shared thermos of coffee at sunrise. His head on my lap as I strummed the guitar, fingers tracing constellations on his skin. On extraction day, the Jeep waited like a faithful dog, but we lingered by the water, the unexpected gesture complete. Not just the note, but the choice. No more running, he said, lacing our fingers. I nodded, the humanism settling like dew. Love isn't absence of storm, but dancing in the rain. Back in Jackson, over burgers at a dive off the square, we planned real plans, not dreams. I'd quit the agency, freelance from Wyoming. He'd show me the hidden trails, the ranger's life. It's not perfect. Nights when doubts whisper. Calls from Mississippi pulling at old threads. But it's ours. Human, messy, profound. That camping trip gone wrong? It righted us, surprised us into truth. And as we drive those endless roads, Springsteen on the tape deck, I know. Some gestures echo forever.